الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين وإن تستفتحوا فقد جاءكم الفتح نصر من الله وفتح قريب وبشر المؤمنين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر وسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Thank you very much, Bishop Oduka.
Gracious and eternal Father, God of grace, God of mercy, and God of compassion, you have made all humankind in your image and in your likeness. We ask, Lord, that you look kindly upon us, the people of this nation, the Gambia, as we go through this process of truth hearing, of confession. Help us that we will be able to forgive one another, that we will be able to have love in our hearts for one another. And help us, Lord, that as the truth comes out, that the healing process will be ongoing, and that everybody who have been victims will be completely healed at the end of all of these. And we ask that by your goodness and your mercy and your grace, that you will unite all of us again together in one bond of peace, of harmony, of love, and of unity. In Jesus' name we pray, praise, and thanksgiving. Amen.
Thank you. May God Almighty bless our proceedings. Lay Council, are we ready for today's proceedings? Oh,
good morning.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Oh, how are you?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. We are ready to proceed. The witness is in the waiting room. So I would ask the usher to bring him in and administer the oath.
I, Boubacar Ba,
I, Boubacar Ba,
do swear that I will speak the truth,
I will speak the truth,
the whole truth,
and
nothing but the truth.
nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me Allah.
Thank you.
Good morning, Captain Ba. How are you this morning? You have to press the green button on the mic, exactly.
Good morning. I'm fine, alhamdulillah, thank God.
So let me begin by explaining how the system works in the courtroom, in the hearing room. In order to, for you to be heard by the interpreters who are interpreting in the local languages, you'll need to press the green button to activate the mic before you speak. And after you finish speaking, you'll need to press it again to switch it off. Allow a few seconds, then I will speak by switching it on, switching it off, and then a few seconds again, and you will speak. So that's just to ensure that the interpretation goes smoothly and the transcription also goes smoothly. Do you understand that?
Yes, I understand.
So as you know, my name is Horeja Balagay. I am the Deputy Lead Counsel. It is my role to question you today on behalf of the commissioners. I will ask a few questions in relation to your background to start off with. So about your educational background and your military career. Then I will ask you about your knowledge in relation to the events of November 11th. Then we will address the torture of Mr. O.J. Jallow, and then we will conclude with your own victimization. Are you ready to proceed?
Yes, I'm ready to proceed.
Please state your full name.
My name is Bubakar Ba.
What is your current rank, Mr. Ba?
My current rank in the Gambia Armed Forces, I am a captain, a commissioned officer captain.
When were you born, Captain Ba?
Since I came from the village precisely, I cannot tell. But then it's roughly around 1972, which I learned from my mom from a person whom I was born a week after.
You said that you were born in the village. Which village were you born?
Actually, I was born at the SL Health Center. At that time, we used to live in Galoya, but later we migrated to Bunyadu village, North Bank region. So I can remember that, I grew up in Bunyadu village.
Can I suggest that you pull the mic closer towards you so you don't have to strain yourself to reach out each time? Can you tell us when and where you attended primary school?
I went to Berending Primary School, Berending Secondary School, and then I did my O-level with Nusrat High School.
When did you finish your O-levels at Nusrat High School?
That was in 1991.
After you finished high school, what did you do next?
When I finished high school, I was staying in Kololi. So one weekend, I had a visitor. After drinking attire, I was seeing them off to the Senegambia Road. And we happened to meet with some of our schoolmates. And in a casual conversation, they told us that they were coming from the selection, the gendarmerie selection in Bakau.
This was in 1991, correct?
It was, yes, it was in 1991, yes.
After they told you that they were coming from the selection of the gendarmerie, what did you do next? Did you join the gendarmerie?
Yeah, we had a conversation and, they were telling things about how those guys are, so that somehow also motivated me. Plus one friend whom I was also living together. So that night, we decided that we should also go and attend the selection the following day.
So which aspect of joining the gendarmerie motivated you into going to join?
Because my schoolmates, I saw a lot of my schoolmates who said they were joining. As a young man, I also wanted to join because I felt that, it's the gendarmerie and the army is a manly organization. So I felt like joining.
So you joined the gendarmerie in 1991. Can you give us a brief overview of your career from 1991 until 2019?
Yeah, I joined the then Gambia National Gendarmerie on the 24th of July 1991. We started our training, and towards the end of our training, because then these the Turkish gendarmerie training team had come to the Gambia, and we were the first intake of the Turkish gendarmerie training team. Towards the end of the training, there were vacancies for commission officers from Turkey to the Gambia, and then it was an open vacancy for which any member can apply, including us who were at the training school that time. So I also decided to apply, and we had an intensive course, an examination. Then I think the slots were 8 that time. So eventually, following the end of the trials and the examination, I happened to be among the first 8. So then I was among the first nominated 8 members to go for overseas training to Turkey.
Do you recall what year that was when you went to Turkey?
That was in 1992, I think around February or March 1992. So among my intake members, it was 8, but there were also 2 other cadets of the gendarmerie who had not been on overseas training. So they decided to join us with those people and to go to Turkey for that training. Actually, the officer slot was 5. Then because of the extra 2 cadets that were brought in, even though I was initially registered as a cadet, so I was dropped to go as an NCO student, because the commander that time, Major Karaduman that time, the Turkish training team leader, said that those who have passed, all of them must go, whether others go or not, but all of them must go. So based on that, I happened to go to Turkey as an NCO student. By NCO, I mean a non-commissioned officer.
How long did your training in Turkey last?
I was in Turkey until late 1993. I think around October the 27th, if I can recall. Then that was the end of our training. We graduated from Turkey, and then we returned back to the Gambia. But when we were in Turkey, the amalgamation took place in our absence. So when we came, we found that most of our colleagues, or all of our colleagues, are putting on police ranks. Some of them had already transferred to the army.
So when you came back around October 1993 and found that the gendarmerie had been amalgamated with your colleagues, some of them joining the police, some joining the army, what happened to you? Where did you go?
Yes, like I said, some went to the police, some went to the army, and there was the tactical support group also. So after my disembarkation leave, when I reported, I was posted to the gendarmerie training school to work with the Turkish gendarmerie training team.
So you remained with the Turkish gendarmerie training team that was in the Gambia until when did that end?
I reported to the gendarmerie training school, and I remained and continued to work with the Turkish gendarmerie training team. I continued to work with them closely as an instructor, as a logistic officer responsible of the feeding of the school, and also liaising also between them and the tactical support group headquarters in Banjul. I was working in that capacity until 1994.
What was your rank at that time?
When I returned from Turkey, I was promoted to a corporal. Then subsequently, I was promoted to an acting sergeant.
Do you recall when you were promoted to an acting sergeant?
I was promoted to an acting sergeant. I don't remember the date precisely, but it was in early 1994.
So after being promoted as an acting sergeant, what happened next in terms of your military career?
I still continued to work with the Turkish gendarmerie training team at the training school in Bakau. Still as an instructor, as an NCO responsible of the feeding, and also as a liaison officer with the Turkish gendarmerie training team.
When was your next promotion after this?
I think in 1996, I was promoted to a staff sergeant in 1996, or 1997 if I'm not mistaken.
As a staff sergeant, where were you based? What was your responsibility in 1996?
Say again?
As a staff sergeant, what was your responsibility in 1996, and where were you based?
Well, before then, you know, when I was working with the Turkish gendarmerie training team at the school, suddenly in 1994, military takeover happened. Then after that, the events that happened after the 1994, then I was subsequently transferred to Farafenye. There are things that happened before that. 1994, as I mentioned in my statement, the day of the coup, I was still working with the training school. So I went to the training school.
Can I sorry, just to interrupt you. I want to address your career, and then we'll come back to the events of 1994. So we still want to have an idea of who you are and your progression within the military. So in 96, you said that you were a staff sergeant.
Yeah, I was promoted to the rank of a staff sergeant, and I still remain with the Gambia the Gambia National Army Training School, which was relocated from Farafenye Barracks to Bakau Barracks, my old location.
So from 96, you were in Bakau Barracks. What was the next promotion you had? What year was that, and what was the rank?
Then I think in 2006, I was promoted to the rank of a warrant officer class 2.
And after that, what was your next promotion?
Then in 2007 or 8, I was promoted to the rank of a lieutenant.
How long did you remain a lieutenant?
From 2008 to 2012.
And what rank did you have in 2012?
In 2012, I was a lieutenant, and then I was recommended for promotion to captain. So I was promoted to captain in 2012.
Throughout this period, you told us a bit about your training in Turkey. Did you receive training in other countries?
Yes, after my first returning from Turkey in 2004 again, I was nominated to go and do a course in Turkey at the Combat Engineering School in Izmir, specializing on munitions and explosives. That was in 2004. I came back. Then when I was promoted to, no, in 2011, before I was promoted to captain, I was also went for a course to India. I did a 2-month course in India, Gwalior, in southeast of Delhi. Then when I came back in 2012, I was promoted to the rank of captain, and the same 2012, I was nominated to attend the Army War College in Istanbul, Turkey, where I had 2 years training from 2012 to 2014. And I came back almost towards the end of 2014.
So if I'm right, one of your areas of expertise is munitions. Is that correct?
Correct. Munitions, mines, and explosives.
I want to take you back now to the events of 1994. Can you tell us briefly about the coup itself in July 1994?
Okay, in 1994, like I said earlier, I was working with the Turkish gendarmerie training team. So one morning, that day I was even a little bit late to wake up because I didn't go to bed early. Then while I was taking shower, at my accommodation, I saw soldiers running. Some gendarme officers running towards the admin area, the main gate area. So, and then I saw somebody running. I asked, "Hey, boy, what are you running?" They said that there is a mutiny in Yundum, and that possibly they will attack the Fajara barracks. So he went away. Just on my own time, I continued, fetch my water, take my shower, change dress, and then I walked to the training school. When I reached the training school, that time the Turkish members of the Turkish training team were not yet at work. Probably they might also have heard the information, I don't know. So while I was at the school, this rumor of mutiny was going on. So then, I went to Fajara barracks because that's where we have our weapons. The training school doesn't have any armory. We keep our weapons at the Fajara barracks. So I proceeded to the Fajara barracks to send out my weapon from the armory. And when I went there, I got more information that some of the members, particularly the commando unit, they have been taken to Banjul, to Denton Bridge, because it is alleged that the mutineers are heading to Banjul for them to go and stop them at the Denton Bridge. So then I signed out my rifle and I went back to the training school. So when I arrived at the training school, I said, let me go in to the office and call members of the Turkish training team to inform them that let them hold on before they come because it is not safe for them to come to the office. So when I went inside, I attempted to call them. I saw that the telephone line was dead. The telephones were not responding. So I went to the other office also to check the line, to check so that I can call them. When I left the telephone, I didn't hear anything. So I thought probably maybe it has not been properly fixed. So while I was trying to check whether the way they fix it is not good, suddenly I heard firing outside. So I heard sustained firing outside, very close in fact. So I was listening to know what the firing is. Then suddenly I said, let me come out and then to find out exactly what is the problem. So by the time I stepped out from the office, then I had seen some strange people, soldiers, carrying weapons, others carrying rockets, others carrying some light support weapons, advancing towards us. Then that's where, they arrested us in 94. I think it was only few of us because the training school, we had less personnel that time. So then, they put us front to go to take us towards Fajara barracks, and they were behind us. So they use us as human seal. They were behind us, and we were moving towards the Fajara barracks, and they were firing up and then also firing on the sides. So until eventually we arrive at the Fajara barracks, those gendarmes who were there also were also firing towards that direction, So suddenly we went up to around the offices at Fajara barracks.
My apologies for interrupting you, Captain Ba, but I think we need to adjourn. I'll let Mr. Fall explain the circumstances.
Thank you very much, Ms. Balagay. Mr. Chairman, we do understand that, there is no NAWEC at the moment, and I have just been made to understand that the battery banks would have only a few minutes of power, and then everything would go off, including the microphones. So in order to avoid that, we have to stop now, adjourn proceedings until the electricity has been restored. We most sincerely apologize for that, but this is the information I have just been given.
Can we, oops. You may proceed.
And then there was light.
No suspension
Indeed.
of the meeting.
Apologies, Captain Ba. You may proceed from where you left off.
So when we finally arrived at the Fajara barracks, most of the gendarmes who were firing, some of them flee. And then the rest of them were arrested. I remember Salih Umbai, he used to be the adjutant that time. Of course, I was with him on the course to Turkey. He went as an officer cadet. He was using his pistol to fire these people having the rifle. And suddenly, when his rounds finished, I saw a small guy, slapping him. And that happened to be Sana Sabali. Hydra was there. I recognized Hydra because I met Hydra in Turkey, although we were not very used to one another. But then casually I recognized him and I know him. We just used to greet and chat a little bit.
What was Hydra's first name?
Sadibu Hydra.
Please continue.
So then, the army officers arrested, the gendarmes that they were able to arrest, including Salim Bai. And then we had a truck, gendarmerie truck at the camp. So now Hydra and Sabali were negotiating whether to allow the gendarmes to join or, to do what. So at that time, there was one, I think, Corporal Conte. He is still at the Fajara barracks, Ibrahim Conte. So he had an exchange with Sana. Actually, I don't know what happened, but he was very rude to Sana and he was insulting. So now, Sana said, now no negotiation. Now they have to enter the truck and then we take them to Yundum barracks. So they ordered people to enter, and then Conte was still refusing to enter. And that time, Sana said that if Conte doesn't enter, there was a soldier who was carrying a rocket-propelled grenade that he was going to fire it on the gendarmes. So it was the people who were being arrested they themselves grabbed Conte and then throw Conte into the truck. Then we were driven to Yundum. So we were kept in Yundum for, I think, 2-3 days. Then they let us out. When we were let out,
Sorry, just a few questions on that. Where were you kept in Yundum?
Yundum, I recall, I think the NCO mess, I was kept at the mess, at the senior NCO mess. Just when you enter Yundum now, after the military police, there is a place, it was the senior NCO mess. I was kept there in the hall, the senior NCO's mess hall, and then they have guards there.
Was your family aware of where you were during those 3 days?
No, my family was not aware because I was living alone. I was not married. I was living alone. My family lives in the North Bank. But my brother, who is here, Osman, came to contact to see what is wrong with me. Well, after that. So after these few days when we were released, then I went back to Fajara Barracks. Before going, we heard that the army officers are breaking into people's houses in Fajara and then stealing their items. And then I had valuable items in my house that time, including that time a video and a standard television, which was not much. Most of the soldiers used to come to my house to watch movies that time. So straight away from Yundum, I run straight to my house. Fortunately, at my building, I have found that it is a corner building. The army had established a guard post there. So my house was not broken into. I came, I greeted the guards, and I opened my house, and I checked my things, and everything was intact. So then they said that they were writing the names of people at the main headquarters in Fajara Barracks there, so I went there to give my name. When they asked, I said I was in Yundum, so I heard that they are giving them, so I also came and gave my name. And from that time, they instructed that people be reporting to the Fajara Barracks, to the Fajara Barracks, yes, not at the school, so we were reporting at the Fajara Barracks. Then subsequently, after a while, they read the posting list, and then I happened to know that I was posted in Farafenye. So arrangements were made, and then I reported to Farafenye.
When the events of November 11, 1994 occurred, where were you living at that time?
I was living at the Fajara Barracks. I was staying at the Fajara Barracks at Yamaton Block, room number 1.
You've told us that you were a trainer. At that time, were you still going to the training school, or were you based entirely in Fajara Barracks itself?
Like I said, I was posted to Farafenye. Then I think they realized that, I used to work at the training school with the Turkish Gendarmerie training team. So I was posted to the Gambia National Army Training School, which was in Farafenye. Then after some time, the training school was relocated back to Fajara Barracks, my former place. So I was working at the training school, Gambia National Army Training School at the Fajara Barracks, and living at the Fajara Barracks as well.
So what's the distance between where you live in Fajara Barracks and the training school?
It's like a 10 minutes walk from my house in Fajara Barracks to the training school. It's like 10 minutes because the training school is co-located with Fajara Barracks. It's in Fajara Barracks.
So in the days leading up to November 11, 1994, was there anything in particular taking place at the training school at that time?
Yes, when we came back from Farafenye, when we relocated the school to Bakau, there was this instructional training. That is like training of trainers, because we are instructors. Sorry. We are instructors, of course, preparing to train potential trainers at the training school. So we have our own training of trainers at the school. But also around that time, there were these new weapons that were imported or smuggled into the Gambia by the Armed Forces Provisional Ruling Council into the Gambia. So part of the training also was training on those weapons. Although those weapons, because I was trained in Turkey, I had already seen them. There were new weapons in the Gambia, but I have already seen them. I have already operated most of, if not almost of them. So training in those weapons was also part of the training program at the training school at that time.
You said that the weapons were imported or smuggled. Can you tell us from where?
Well, they said they were smuggled from Ukraine. They were smuggled from Ukraine. Also, when I saw the weapons, because these are Soviet-made weapons, you know, because every region, when they produce certain weapons, there are some characteristics that are peculiar to them. So when I saw the weapons, I knew they are from the former Eastern Soviet states. So when I got the information that they are from Ukraine, you know, in my mind, I agree that they must be from Ukraine.
So can you tell us what kind of weapons we're talking about?
These were varieties of weapons. We had the AK-47, but we had, among them we have AK-47, but it was a modified AK-47 with the grenade launcher. It can fire bullets, and it also has the ability to fire some grenades, these 40-millimeter grenades. It can launch 40-millimeter grenades. Among them also we had the Pkms. These were the modified PKT, which used to be produced by the Soviets, but down the time they modernized them to PKMS, and they have got the bipod and tripod, some leg-like for supporting fire, light supporting, medium supporting fire to a section or a platoon.
Well, we know you're an expert on these weapons, but we're not. Can you please explain to us what a PK is? You mentioned PK.
PK actually is named after a Soviet brand. The meaning is there, but I forget the meaning. We had the PKT, we also had the PKMS. But like AK-47, Andrew Klasnikov, 1947, PK also have got a brand that it is named after, but precisely I cannot remember right now.
So this training was going on in the training school in the days leading up to November 11th. Is that correct?
Correct.
I want to find out what you know about the incident of November 11th. Where were you at that time?
November 11, I was at the Gambia National Army Training School, and I was still residing in Fajara Barracks.
Can you tell us the events of November 11th as far as you experienced it?
Okay. Actually, that weapon course was going on at the school, and the course ended on the 10th of November, 1994. You know, so the following day was supposed to be the Army Day. You know, there is usually a ceremony, and the course ended on the 10th. So the course participants were supposed to obviously graduate on the 11th. Then usually after the training, you do weapon cleaning and then return the weapons to the armory. So we did that on that day. We returned the weapon at the armory. But on that day also, my brother Osman, this one sitting here, he had problem with the wife, and the wife went to Busumbala. So around that time, I was making negotiation with Usman to go and pick the wife because the wife was pregnant. So when I left early that day, on the 10th, that afternoon, I went to Usman in Kololi. Then from there, our other brother, Amadou, I went with Amadou. We drove to Busumbala to go and pick my brother's wife. But when we arrived there, the guy where my brother's wife went had gone for work, and definitely we cannot pick the lady until the guy is back. So he was late to close from work. I think around 9 o'clock. He closed around 9 o'clock. He came. We had a lengthy talk, you know. He gave some advices. And finally, myself, the lady herself, my brother's wife, and the brother who drove us, we picked her and came back to Kololi to drop her to Usman's house. I think that was around 10 or after 10, something like that. I spent little time there, and then Usman told me that, okay, I said to Usman, I'm going. He said, why not you stay? I said, let me go because tomorrow we are supposed to graduate. So he said, okay, go with Amadou, he will drop you at Fajara. So Amadou drove me with the car back to Fajara. Around that time, the Fajara barracks was not fenced. It was just this local barbed wire fence. Most of the areas had already collapsed. So there were a lot of routes in and out of the Fajara barracks. So when he drove me up to the corner of the fence at Fajara, I said, just drop me here because this is the shortcut to my house. So he dropped me there. That was around 11, you know, to 11 or around that, about that time. So when he dropped me there at the corner of the fence there, because Fajara Barracks is such that around that time, the admin area is fenced, but the rest of the place is a local fence. So I dropped there, I took the shortcut to go to my house. As I was entering the camp, I was halted. Some two guys, you know, shouted, halt, hands up. But it's normal when you are on sentry. This is normal in the army. When you are protecting a place, if a strange person is approaching there, you are expected to, you know, do certain SOPs, certain standing operational procedures you have to apply. So when they say halt, hands up, I stood and I raised my hands up. So they say, who comes there? I said, it's me. You who? I said, it's Sergeant Ba, training school. They said, okay. When you know the person already, you say, okay, go. If you still have doubt, you can still pose more questions on the person, you know. So they cleared me, then I went to my house. Usually the camp around that time used to be very lively. After work, the soldiers, they all have, you know, music sets in their houses, and then, you know, people used to play loud music. You know, the blocks, the accommodations are always lively. People are playing music, you know, everywhere. People are, you know, running helter-skelter, making jokes, you know, to make it lively. So when I arrived at my block, I saw that, you know, the status quo is different. I didn't find almost nobody at my block, Yamaton block. So it was strange to me because it was not very late. It was around 11, maybe few minutes after 11. So I was wondering what is going on. So I opened my house, you know, I sat, you know, I started to play some movie. I used to have a pile of movies in my house, and every time the instructors at the training school, soldiers, I don't even know them, they used to come and enjoy films in my house. Then, you know, suddenly one Sana came, Sana Bio. He was working under me. He was a cook at the training school. So he was working under me. He is late now. He came. We greeted, you know. I said, Sana, but, you know, this place is very lonely. He said, sir, you know, there is an information that, you know, tonight some enemies will attack the camp. Some mercenaries will attack the Fajara barracks in the night. You know, so I was wondering, some enemies will attack the camp in the night? I said, okay. I said, the enemies, where will they come from? He said, they don't know, but they said that some foreign enemies will attack the camp. I said, okay. So I sat in, he went. He said he's going. So he went. So I sat in my house for a while. I had a second thought. I said, but if in my mind, now I'm talking to myself, you know, some rhetorical questions to my own self. I said, if that is the case, and since I work at the training school, why not I go to the training school to find out actually what the issue is? So I prepared myself, I took shower, then I dressed up in uniform. Then I went to the training school, which is just 10 minutes walk from my accommodation. When I arrived at the training school, I didn't see nobody at the training school. The training school was empty. There was nobody. So I went into our office. I sat for a while, and I didn't hear anything. I didn't see nobody. So I said, now, since we are co-located with the Fajara barracks, let me go to the main headquarter area of the Fajara barracks to actually try to find out, to verify this information. So I left the training school, you know, back to my house. Then from there, I went to Fajara barracks. That was now maybe around 11:30 towards 12. So when I arrived at the Fajara barracks, I found that night the armory is open. And then I find some few people, not knowing already I think so many people have taken the weapon. I knew after that, I will explain subsequently. I saw some guys collecting some weapons from the armory. The armorer was my class. He's my badge mate. We call it class. Mustafa Fall, he was also a sergeant. He also trained in Turkey, and he is also a weapon specialist like me. So I went in there, and I also checked for the best weapon, for the most suitable weapon. Then I also took the weapon. I took some ammunition. I took so many grenades. I took some hand grenades as well, you know, and I came out. When I came out, I asked, he was busy issuing weapons. Then later I asked him, I said, but boy, what is going on? He also gave me the same information that they allege that there are enemies coming to attack the camp, you know. So then after taking my weapon, I also remained there. I remained together with Fall. I remained with Fall. That was around after 12. So we were there nothing. We were there nothing up to sharp 2 a.m. in the night. Then we had firing from around the Fajara barracks back gate, the training school area, and around the accommodation area. We had some, you know, firing coming towards us. You know, they were firing, and then some of the shells were landing at our place. Then also from our end, also then firing started. And I had so many firing from our own end towards, to counter where the fire is coming from. I then realized that then there must have been a lot of people who had already taken weapons and then firing to that direction. It was nighttime. You know, some even fire the bulbs, you know, and then the light goes off. So there was that firing. We are firing to the area where the firing is coming on and coming from, and they are also firing. That lasted until morning. That lasted until morning. But what happened was when from 2 a.m. to around 6, when I exhausted my ammunitions. I was left, of course, with some grenades. Then myself and Fall, we decided to leave the camp by the main gate. When we left the camp, we went up to where the Trrc bank is now in Bakau, at around that roundabout. Then I separated with Fall there. Fall went his way, and I also went my way. I went to Bakau. I was still hearing firing. it's a boy I know. We are from the same village, so I went there. So I was there. It was not very far from the camp, and I was still hearing the firing. You know, and the firing was dying down a little bit, and I also hear the firing. So there was like firing, sustained firing, until after a time there was sporadic firing. So I said to myself, but I don't think I should remain here. I think I should go back to the barracks. So I decided to go back to the barracks. So when I went, until I was about to reach the gate, I was having some grenades. So I removed the grenades and then hide them somewhere at the fence corner to go into Fajara barracks to see what is the situation. So I entered via the back gate. It was still dark. It was dark. I saw soldiers, some few soldiers away, far from the gate. So I entered. I thought they will halt and challenge me like before, the night before. But they didn't tell me anything, so I proceeded to my house. Then when I proceeded to my house, I take shower and I changed dress. The uniform I was putting on, I removed it and I put on another uniform. So now, then after that, I went to the training school. When I went to the training school, I didn't see nobody.
You may proceed, actually.
So when I went to the training school and I didn't see, I saw Sana. Sana told me that the other instructors have already reported to the Fajara barracks area. So I left the training school and I went to the Fajara barracks. That morning, it was already bright before I went to my house, take shower, go to the school and go to Fajara barracks. It was already bright. So when I went to Fajara barracks, then I saw some of my colleagues, Parfati, you know, and then other boys, you know. So I was there. Then I think Yaya Fande, he was also here. You know, so from the stories I heard, they said that, you know, some officers were arrested and they were lined up in the field in Fajara barracks, where the council members were, and you know, the odd list of the council members and other soldiers were asked to fire at them. That was the information I've got. Then from there, that time, the training school, the commandant was Peter Singate. Then after that, Peter came, and then, you know, he's saying that there was a coup, you know, and some members of the training school, like LF Jame, you know, Cadet Silla, and then he said that he hoped, you know, other people are not part of it, because if they are part of it, then they would have to dance to the tune. So we were there. We were there until the late part of, in the afternoon, whilst we were sitting just around the armory there, waiting for further instructions. Then I saw the military police vehicle came, and it stopped around the main gate, and then, you know, two soldiers were escorting a guy who was putting on only his underpants. His body was naked. He was only putting on underpants. And the two military police were escorting him with the rifles, taking him to the office of the commanding officer. That time, the commanding officer was Pamodu An. So when they were escorting him, he came closer.
Just a couple of questions before you proceed. Do you know the name of the man who was being escorted, and do you know the names of the military police personnel who were escorting him?
Yes, the guy who was escorted, when he was passing, because we were sitting and it's like, this is the way they were taking him. When they came closer, I recognized him. I recognized that he is Abdullah Ba, and he was a second lieutenant or a lieutenant. So the guys who were escorting him, I recognized one The other I didn't recognize because then I don't know the soldiers. Most of the soldiers also I don't know them. Particularly if you are not serving with them in the same unit, you may not be able to know them. But the other guy who was escorting that Abdullah Ba was, I think, a Lance Corporal Mbub, Abdullah Mbub.
Are you aware if Lieutenant or Second Lieutenant Abdullah Ba has a nickname?
Yes, later I think they said they call him a chopping, something like that.
Just to take you a bit back to a few events before we proceed further, you said that while you were at Fajara Barracks between 2 a.m. and around 6 a.m., you were participating in the firing against the people who were attacking the camp. Do you know who you were firing against?
At that time, I didn't know. At that time, only thing I was also banking on was the information that they are enemies attacking the camp. But later, it came out clear that actually it was the council members with their soldiers. That is, the council members and their soldiers, yeah.
You said that Peter Signate told you about individuals who had been killed, if I'm not mistaken.
He said, yeah, he told us those who were involved from the training school, LF Jamme, Nyang Kabare, Sergeant Jadama, Samejo Trawale, and Cadet Silla, and that Cadet Silla is dead. He said that.
Did he tell you what happened to the others apart from Cadet Silla?
He said there are some people on the run and they are still looking for them.
Did he give you any other information as to, for instance, who those people who were on the run were?
Yes, obviously we were all at the training school as training instructors. They mentioned that Sergeant Nyang Kabare was on the run, Sergeant Jadamai was on the run, Samejo Trawale, I think, was arrested or something like that,
Did Peter Signate tell you anything else about how Cadet Silla was killed? Who killed him?
No, he did not.
Did he tell you anything else about other individuals such as Abdullah Ba, or it's only when you saw Abdullah Ba that you knew he was involved somehow?
Yeah, when I saw Abdullah Ba, I was surprised because Abdullah Ba's sister, Jatuba, was my schoolmate. She was actually my, I think, classmate. And Abdullah at that time, whilst we were going to school, sometimes he used to come to our village to visit the relatives there. The elder sister is married there. So I knew him from that time. So I was really surprised to see, and I'm wondering what must have happened.
So you told us after this, you went back to Fajara Barracks. Is that correct? After the conversation with Peter Signate.
Yeah, we were at Fajara Barracks, and then, we were still at the Fajara Barracks. So then later that day, we returned our weapons, and then, they asked us to go until Monday we come.
Did you receive any further information between that period and Monday when you reported back?
Yes. So when I returned my weapon at the armory, then they asked us to go and come on Monday. So I decided to cross. Banjul is not far. I crossed the ferry and I went to our village, where I spent that Saturday, and then Sunday in the evening I crossed back. Then when I crossed back, then Monday I reported to the training school.
So what I'm trying to establish was whether you received any further information about the events of November 11th after you left the barracks and crossed over to another village. Did you receive any further information about what happened in relation to November 11th?
Yeah, when I came back on Sunday, I heard that there was an execution on Saturday. In Yondum Barracks, they mentioned around the Nyambai forest or C4 area. I received that information. But Monday when I reported at the school, Peter was our commandant. He was a second lieutenant that time. He gathered all the instructors, and then he's saying that, there was an attempted coup, and then, there are some people on the run. There are some people also, they are trying to investigate to know those who are involved, and, any of the instructors who is involved in that, that some people have already been killed. Anyone who is involved in it will also have the same fate, So he was gathering, people in the hall, and then we sit there, and then we are looking at each other, and he is telling that. He is telling those things.
So just to make sure it's clear, how many times did you have a meeting with Peter Sinyate in relation to the November 11 incident? Was it only that Monday morning, or did you have another meeting with him prior to that?
Every day, we normally, instructors and him, we normally sit together. He sits us in a hall, or we sit, and he's he's saying that, there are investigations, and then, he's warning that anyone who is involved, let the individual come out, because if not, if the person happened to be known, then he will also face the same fate as the others. So, and then, because that time they were trying to investigate, so they kept us together at the training school. We were constantly together. Constantly we were together for a week or 2 weeks, or even more than that.
Did you receive any further information in relation to the soldiers who were killed at Nyambai Forest? Did you find out who was killed, for instance, or how they were killed?
Well, I didn't find out how they were killed, but commonly, because most were army officers and NCOs who were subsequently promoted to officers. They were mentioning names, but that time I don't know them. Like I heard about Basiru Baro, but I don't know him. I've never known him. And they were mentioning names, but I don't know them. I don't know them. Ablaiba was mentioned, and Ablaiba I know. But the rest, I don't know them, definitely. So this is the information that I know about that.
When you mention Abdoulaye Ba, are you still referring to Chopin? Is that correct?
Exactly, yes. The sister was my classmate, actually.
Did you receive any further information about, well, let me rephrase. You've mentioned that you didn't know the soldiers who they mentioned as having been killed. You mentioned the name of Lieutenant Baro. Do you recall his first name? The mic.
From what I hear, they said the name is Basiru Baro.
So again, I know you don't know these people because you newly joined the GNA, but do you recall any other names that were mentioned as having been executed in Nyambai Forest, apart from Lieutenant Basiru Baro?
Some of the names mentioned I forget, but yeah, I have heard about Basiru Baro, Jibril Sey, EMCC, so many names they name. But because I don't know them, so when you don't know a person, normally you don't you don't keep the name in your memory.
So you were involved in defending the barracks during November 11th. Is that right?
Yes, I was in the barracks, and of course I was given a counterfire to the alleged enemies that will attack the camp, to defend the barracks, and also in the process to defend myself, to save my life and the lives of my comrades.
So when Peter Sinyate said that they were looking for people who were involved, did you at any point mention that you were one of the people shooting or not?
No, I was not mentioned. And then also, nobody also asked me, nobody investigated me, nobody asked me anything, you know.
So did anything happen to you at all in relation to November 11?
No, nothing happens to me.
Mr. Chairman, I'm about to move to another topic that I don't want to break, so I will allow the commissioners to ask questions for now. The topic that I want to go on relates to the torture of Mr. O.J. Jallow, and I would rather not disrupt the flow and break it in about 10 minutes when we break. So if you have any questions, I hand over to you.
Thank you, Council. Sensible suggestion. Members of the Commission, would anybody have questions for the witness? Yeah. Commissioner Kinte, you have the floor, please.
Commissioner Kinte, Captain Walker, there is one area that looks puzzling to me. I want some clarification. You found, of course, you had information that some mercenaries will attack the camp, and you equip yourself as orders. Later, you exhausted your arms and you went out with FAL, you said, and later you decided to come back. My first question is, did you relate anything, those firing, as to those arrested? Were there any relationship which made you conceal the fact that you had been firing at night? That's one. And two, did you notice at any point that the FAL you were joining in the firing in defense of the camp was part of those arrested and subsequently executed, which in fact may have been one of the reasons why you concealed the information that you were one of those firing?
Thank you very much. I don't seem to understand your first question. But then, since I have been called here and I volunteered to come and tell the truth, I will only tell the truth, and I have sworn to the Quran, which I respect very well. Because at the end of the day, it's Allah's accountability, which is the real accountability. So I am not concealing any information. I am not going to conceal any information whatsoever. The first question, I don't understand it. The second question, FAL, who is my badge mate, was arrested, but then subsequently he was left, because I think he gave the same explanation like I explained, because later I had a casual conversation with him that, you know, that enemies are coming to attack the camp, so obviously he was involved in that capacity, in that spirit.
Hello, I understand you now. FAL declared that he was part of the shooting in defense of the camp, as you were also part of the shooting in defense of the camp.
Correct.
Thank you.
But FAL, because FAL was the Amora, obviously they would question him. I was not an Amora.
That's why you are in question.
Yeah, obviously they may not have in mind to question me, really.
Thank you very much. I've got you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commissioners? If not, we will take a 30-minute break and resume, what, about 1:45, or you want to, 12 o'clock?
Lawyers are having a bit of a difficulty calculating time
Yes,
here.
I was just
but
waiting.
It would be 10 minutes to,
I could tell, yeah.
10 minutes to 12.
Anyway, let's have a 40-minute break,
Yeah,
and we'll come back and continue with our proceedings.
At 12?
At 12 noon. Okay? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.